justice and peace and equality. Now the world they will see.
Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. And today we have Miss Asha Ellen of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. How are you today, Miss Ellen?
I am great. How are you?
It is awesome. I'm glad to have you in our studio. Glad to be able to share some of the great things that's happening in the city of Macon, in the county of Bibb, and some of the great things you have accomplished over the past 30 years. Right?
Oh, wow. You're trying to tell my age now.
Hey, it's okay. I'm pretty sure by your story you have been working since you were yay high, so yes. I can tell, all the great things you're doing. Now, you started out in the public and private sector of nonprofit work as well as community service work. Tell us who is Miss Asha. I'm sorry. Ellen, tell us who you are.
Well, wow, over my 52 years, it's a lot to tell, but just to go back a little bit, I was born in Paterson, New Jersey, and my family, I moved to Macon in 1980 with my grandparents, who were originally from Macon. They, like many other black people, had migrated to the north in the 50s, but around 1980, my mother had passed away, and so my grandparents wanted to get back to Georgia. And so I consider Macon, Georgia, as far as home. That's where I've been since 1980, since the third grade. So I went through elementary, middle, and high school, graduated from the Southwest High School in Macon, Georgia. And then from there, I went on to college. Georgia Southern University is where I graduated from, and then came back to Macon. That was not a part of the original plan, however, but I came back to Macon, and so my undergraduate degree was in business administration with an emphasis in management, and so my first job right out of college was working in for Kmart Corporation in their executive manager trainee program. And went through that program, and then worked in the retail management industry for a few years, and I eventually transitioned over to Coca-Cola in the late 90s and was there for a little bit over a decade, and then so that was my introduction as far as in corporate America, working for the private sector. And then I eventually just wanted a change after getting my master's in public administration. I wanted to transition into the nonprofit sector. And so so I went from corporate, from the private sector to the nonprofit profit sector, and then eventually worked also for the Macon Judicial Circuit with the first African-American and first female district attorney, Anita Reynolds Howard. I worked on her leadership team before transitioning to 3 years ago to where I am now as the executive director of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful.
Wow, phenomenal resume.
So over that 30 years, working for the private sector, the public sector, nonprofit, and now in the nonprofit sector.
Man, that is awesome. And you are the first African-American executive director of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What a phenomenal achievement. It's a lot of history that comes out of Macon.
Yes.
It's a lot of history. We talked about the Douglas Center. We talked about, I believe Otis Redding.
We have Otis Redding, Little Richard, James Brown, not from Macon, but basically got his start in Macon. Most people don't realize the impact that Macon had on the career of James Brown. But then you also have other artists like the Allman Brothers as well. So Macon has a very rich musical history.
Oh, awesome. Now, Macon has definitely changed in leadership, has definitely grown. It's becoming more progressive, the county of Bibb. Things are changing. What role does Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful play in beautifying and making Macon and Bibb County an attractive place to come to?
Okay. Well, just to give you a little brief history about Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, the organization is a nonprofit 501c1 that was established in 1974. So 51 years old. Was founded by Carolyn Creighton. Those who are from Macon may be familiar with her name, as far as she was also the founder of the International Cherry Blossom Festival, which is real big, not just throughout Macon, throughout the state, but really it's international throughout the world. And so Back in 1974, of course, now we're in 2025. It's a different Macon than what it was.
Right, go ahead.
Than what it was 51 years ago. So the Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, even though it's a local organization in Macon, it's a part of a national network, and that's Keep America Beautiful.
Oh,
so
wow.
you have Keep America Beautiful, and then you also have on the state level, we have Keep Georgia Beautiful.
Okay.
And then throughout the state of Georgia, you actually have about 70 affiliates, with Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful actually being the first local affiliate that was established by Keep America Beautiful over 50 years ago.
Oh, wow,
Yes,
wow.
yes.
And you guys, excuse me for my phone ringing because we tell all our guests to make sure your phones are down when your phone is on. But so you guys, excuse me, but we had made a call to Dr. Maya Speller of Beyond Your Ordinary, and she called in at the same time with our Make It Connect. So we apologize about that. That was a technical error. However, back to where we started. Now, so this nonprofit is it a diverse nonprofit? I mean, tell us like what role, as far as how it started, what role, enticed you to say, hey man, I want to be a part of this?
Okay. Well, Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful was never on my radar. Okay. Growing up in Macon, even though the organization itself is 51 years old, really just a year younger than I am, I never was aware really of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful growing up. I'm going to be honest. And so how I became involved with the organization is I was appointed by our current mayor to serve on the board. Okay. This was while I was at the district attorney's office. So around 2001, 2002, I was appointed to serve on the 2021. Okay. I was appointed by the current mayor to serve on the board. Okay. And so that was really my introduction to Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. But that short period of time while serving on the board, I became very interested as far as expanding the depth and breadth of the organization as far as making sure that, like I said, I grew up in Macon, in South Macon to be exact, and I was not aware of the organization. I feel like the mission and the goal of the organization is very important. So if someone like me who was very active growing up, very active within the community, was not aware of it, then how many other people were not aware? So I wanted to make sure that the organization, and this was as a board member, that we were reaching all parts of the community. To be very transparent, in its earlier years, in its beginning, the organization was known as a more elitist type organization. And because of that, it even though the mission and the goals of the organization was definitely to beautify the community, certain people may not have necessarily been reached or received that message, and I can speak honestly for myself. I was one of those people who did not receive the message. Yes, I knew just by how I was raised to not litter, but I didn't know about the beautification efforts and what Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful was doing in the community. And so I was very intentional when I then transitioned from a board member to the executive director. I was very intentional of making sure that we were reaching all parts of the community, all segments of the community. The demographics of Macon has changed since the founding of this organization in 1974. So we can't. I was like, we can't continue to run this organization like it's 1974. Correct. When now it's, it's 20. At this time, it was 2023, 2022, 2023, and even where we are now in 2025. And so just making sure that being very intentional of reaching all parts and all segments of our population.
In all segments. And Macon, the county of Bibb, is a beautiful city. I know you can come in some parts. Let's say, I know when we go to Backway through Jackson and all of those little small country towns on the back road. We don't take 75. You come in right directly to like a mall.
You come into to the northern side of Macon.
Okay, the northern side. Now it's very well taken care of on that side.
Yes,
very well. Now you say you're from the south side of Macon.
Yeah,
right?
but I've been in the north. I've been in North Macon though now for almost 25. Well, longer than that, but about at least 25 years.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
But my family history goes back to North Macon since 1894.
Wow.
Because my grandmother's grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, who was born an enslaved man after freedom, that after slavery, he actually at one point in time owned over 300 acres of land in North Macon.
Oh, wow.
And so myself and several of his other descendants live on that property. And so I always tell people North Macon has always been known to the demographics to be majority Caucasian.
Right.
But I was like, well, my family roots go back since 1894. So
on the north side of town.
On the north side of town.
So now I've been to Macon and talking about the north and the south, and keeping Macon-Bibb beautiful. What is the plan? Because it's some rough areas on the south. Like now that you're the executive director, you can advocate for both sides of the aisle because you have communication with people on the north and people on the south, as well as support from the local government. What is your vision for taking that south side and saying, hey, how can we improve this? Or what do we do? Where do we start from?
Okay. I don't want to neglect also the east side of Macon
Yes.
and the west side of Macon, which are also in the east side. We have Fort Hill, which is a historical community. And then on the west side, you have communities like Unionville, you have Pleasant Hill. And so I don't want to neglect, because those are historic communities, historic African-American communities.
Oh, wow.
That over the years have been in a state of neglect and decline. But to answer your question though, South Macon is a challenge. It really is. I have had through various grants, have had the opportunity to, what I'm working on right now in the future, the present in the future, is doing some beautification initiatives, working with the one of the elementary schools in the community, but also trying to rebuild and work with the Neighborhood Watch, a couple of the Neighborhood Watch associations in the community. But South Macon, I admit, has been a challenge. Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. We're a small nonprofit organization. We do work with other community partners. We work with the citizens, and so I'm hoping now that with some future grant funding that hopefully we will receive, we can start doing more in South Macon to sort of mirror what we've been successful in East Macon. So I can definitely tell you some of the things that we've done and we're doing in East Macon. They have East Macon has a very strong Neighborhood Watch Association that always helps when you have the support of citizens.
Wow.
They also have a very strong current Commissioner Stanley Stewart, but also the previous Commissioner Elaine Lucas, who is now also the Water Board member of that service, that East Macon community. So when you have that type of support from citizens and you also have that type of support from the elected officials, an organization like mine, it really helps because we could sort of come in and help to sort of bridge the gap and to maybe be able to supplement maybe some of the things that maybe at the current time our local government maybe cannot do. So an example of that is there's a park in the Fort Hill community, the Fort Hill Community Park. Some people may call it the Eastview Park. It just depends on who you talk to. But it's on Eastview, in the corner of Eastview Avenue and Hawkinsville Avenue in Fort Hill. And so we were able to work with another nonprofit, but we were able to acquire grant funding, one through AARP, another grant through Cox Communications, and then another grant through Keep America Beautiful, and combine those funds to beautify that park. The other nonprofit, Grow Macon Inc., ran by a young lady who's from that community, Charm Myers. She created a community garden, so we were able to partner with her to do things to enhance the garden, but also do improvements on the playground itself. And through that, we worked with the local government, with the Parks and Recreation Department, to be able to get new playground equipment, new picnic equipment, and pavilions, picnic tables, add more trees to the playground, as well as we worked with a local artist named Kevin Sing Lewis, who did the East Side is known for their East Side Out Loud theme. So we were able to create and do a mural on the basketball court. So some of those projects have been complete. Some are ongoing, but we hope to have that whole project for that part completed by this fall. So the goal is to then take what we've learned in that experience, because this was a 2 to 3 year project in the making.
Nothing that happened overnight.
Did not happen overnight. I had to get the money a little bit at a time. And do what we could with what we had. So the Macon-Bibb County local government coming on board with providing the funds to upgrade the playground equipment, and then we were able to come in and also do our part with the other enhancements. So taking that same model, hopefully we will be able to spread that same model throughout Macon, from South Macon to West Macon, throughout the community, focusing on our underserved communities. On your
underserved communities. And what made you start What made you start on the East Side? I heard you say something about it was historic. How important was it to preserve the historic district of the city of Macon and County of Bibb?
Well, it's very important. And I'm just going to be honest, you've heard as far as a brief bit of my bio, we all as citizens, we get up, we go to work, we take our kids to school, we do whatever we do, but we probably just go our same routes, our same paths day to day. And we're not really entrenched in the neighborhoods, especially if we don't live in those neighborhoods. And so prior to my role with Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, even though I was very actively involved in various capacities and various organizations throughout the city, it wasn't until I got into this role where I was really deep. Seriously, boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
And then you then begin to see the blinders all of a sudden come off. And that's when you realize that, wow, there are people in our community who are still struggling. There are people in our community, when you ride through certain parts of our community, you wonder, has anyone paid attention in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Because certain parts of our community, you would think that you are in a third world country. And even when I drive back through my old neighborhood in South Macon, which I'll be there later on this evening when I leave here. But I feel like, wow, am I even still in Macon? Am I still home? Because this does not look like certain parts of town. This does not look like where I grew up. So that's when you realize that, you've been given a responsibility to help be a part of the solution. We can continue to complain, but if we're not putting action behind those complaints, if we're not developing strategic plans and partnerships, then it's all in vain.
It's definitely all in vain, and partnerships are key to rebuilding communities, and that's partnerships from leadership, from the community, from the people, from advocates who believe in this. And it's crazy because I know myself riding through Macon when I'm riding from Atlanta to Savannah or just going down that way, I'm almost seeing like two different Macons, like you said, the north side, the south side, and
it's more like four different Macons. You're gonna have to come back, and I'm gonna take you on a tour.
So it's definitely blocked in 4 different blocks. So we're gonna talk about more about Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. We have Miss Asha Ellen. Oh man, you guys. We are here. Miss Asha Ellen, you guys. We have her right here in the building on Game Changers Media Network, Game Changers Magazine, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. Ease up.
Georgia. In America, we are in what many may call dark days. This is not a game. We are in a crisis that has many in communities across this state and in the nation feeling uncomfortable and, quite honestly, scared and unsure of what tomorrow will bring. In this moment, we need someone that's ready and willing to pull us out of darkness and step into the light of our greatest potential. It is not enough for us to fight against the powers that be, but we also need to fight for something. I desire to fight for you and your family as I announce my candidacy to become governor of Georgia. As governor, I will be that champion. I want to ensure your rights are protected. Civil rights, reproductive rights, human rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights. I want to protect you from being abducted in our streets. I understand that climate and the environment is important. You deserve clean air to breathe and fresh water to drink. A governor that believes all Georgians deserve good paying jobs, safe homes, and access to affordable health care. But a governor also that believes that giving birth to children in this state should not be a death sentence. Who do we have that is going to lead us to brighter days? A husband, father, business executive, entrepreneur, military veteran. We need someone to restore hope. We need a governor on day one who is ready to battle against the Trump policies, the Republican agenda, and protect the citizens in this state. Every day I will wake up with your family on my mind. I am ready to be a champion for you. Elect me, Derrick Jackson, for governor.
Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. And we're back with Mrs. Asha Ellen of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. Man, what a phenomenal first take. We were talking about, you know, the different sectors of Macon, on the east side, the west side, the south side. And in between break, we connected with people that we didn't even know we were connected to. So I can tell you it's a lot of work to be done in the city of Macon and the county of Bibb. Now, going back, what made you, you know, being that it was your first project, in coming, you said 2020, you came in 2022.
2022. On the board in 2021, and then 6 months later, I became the executive director.
As the executive director.
Yes.
What was your biggest challenge in, you know, connecting people to buy into this vision, you know, on both sides of the aisle, with this organization being looked at or perceived as the elite organization? Oh, nobody, you know, almost like a boule. Almost like. Tell us what are some of the challenges you faced in so that you can move forward with your vision.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm going to call it a challenge, but a hurdle that I did have to overcome as far as with the community and primarily the Black community really trusting the organization. I'm just going to be honest.
Wow.
Because the organization was known more so as an elitist organization, a lot of people felt that it was not for them. They didn't feel that, even though they were in Macon, they didn't feel that Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful was necessarily focused on their neighborhoods and their communities. Okay. And so the first thing that I had to do was build trust within all parts of the community.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily difficult in a sense of a lot of the communities, people were familiar with me, whether it was, you know, in my previous role as the director of outreach with the district attorney's office, or in other, you know, social and civic organizations that I was, you know, and still am a part of. So I was familiar with a lot of people, but it was a lot of people I was not familiar with. And so, Macon is somewhat diverse, but Macon is can be somewhat exclusive even within our own communities.
Yes.
You know, you got your church folks, you got your not church folks, you got your, you know, your social organizations, your fraternities, sororities, which I'm, you know, a part of a sorority, and so you just got these different levels, and and these different groups, and it's like, okay, how do we bring everyone together? At the end of the day, we all have more that we have in common maybe than our differences. And especially when it comes to wanting to beautify our community, it doesn't matter what political party you're a part of. It doesn't matter, what social organizations, what race, what gender. We all want a beautiful community.
Definitely.
And so let's come together just on that common goal, that common effort of beautifying our community.
Right.
Now, some communities may have more struggles than others,
Okay.
but still, there's still improvements even in those communities that may be considered, more elitist, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Because even your neighborhood, the streets in your neighborhood may be clean, but the road you took to get to your neighborhood may not be. So let's address that.
Yes.
So we started to work with various neighborhood watch associations.
Okay.
That was a big key to be able to connect with people in the community.
Okay.
To find out what their concerns are, what their issues. And I don't go in to anyone's neighborhood or anyone's community like I have all the answers.
Right.
I want to sit down and talk with the people and find out what their issues and concerns are.
Correct.
One example of that is the park that I mentioned previously in Fort Hill.
Okay.
Well, I had the ideas as far as what I presented, as far as the mural on the basketball court, the tabletop picnic tables, things such as that.
Okay.
But the members of the Fort Hill community said, well, we don't have an area nearby where we can go exercise, or it's a low-income community. People can't afford gym memberships. And so can we have calisthenics equipment? I wouldn't have never thought about that.
Wow.
But since that idea was given by the community, when I applied for the grant, I made sure that I included that in.
Okay.
So we have, in that particular park, we have a garden that can address some of the food insecurities, but we will have, by this fall, also exercise equipment.
Okay.
So
Okay.
those of all ages, from the youth to our seniors, can have equipment that they can go to their local park and utilize. I would have
Okay.
never thought about that. That was nowhere on my radar.
Wow.
And so by having those conversations and talking with the citizens of that community, we're going to have calisthenics equipment
Okay.
at that park. And so, like I said, each community is different, but they're also similar in a lot of ways. Like I
Okay.
said, we all want to have nice, clean streets. We want to have, green space. We
Yes.
want to have safe streets. We want to have, so those, regardless of what part of the community you're in, we want those things for ourselves, for our children, and so forth. So those are the common things that I was able to sort of bridge that gap.
Right.
And and then grow and develop from there.
Okay. Now, going back to with you working with the district attorney office and then coming to keep making Bibb beautiful. The thing about it is, Macon has we all know Macon is high on the radar for crime. County of Bibb. I think I'm on social media every day and I'm seeing Bibb County Sheriff's Department talk about who they caught and all kind of things that are happening. How important is it, coming from the district attorney office, seeing, work that's like prosecution and, things of that nature. But how important was it for you to transition to say, hey, I worked and I seen crime on this side, but now I want to beautify this side? How important does beautification play in preventing crime?
Okay. Well, the part of the district attorney, I was not a prosecutor. I was not an attorney. So I was actually, and as the director of outreach, engagement, and diversity, my role actually was going into the communities on the preventive side, connecting with the community, connecting the office with the community. It's not about just locking people up. Of course, if people commit crimes, and they're found guilty, that's one thing.
Right.
But my role, a big part of my role with the district attorney's office, well, pretty much 100% of my role was that community engagement, community involvement.
Wow.
So going to those neighborhood watch meetings, going into the schools, going into the recreation centers, working with our youth and our adults, our seniors. So it really transitioned very well because I was in a community engagement and a community outreach role with the district attorney's office, working on things like the RISE program, which still is going on in the district attorney's office. We're focusing on youth who have experienced maybe trauma that have caused maybe some of the, negative behavior. It's not that this child is bad, but this child has experienced, trauma, whether it could have been from the incarceration of a parent, the death of a parent. I can relate to that wholeheartedly because at the age of 7, my mother was murdered.
Wow.
And so I can understand what trauma as a young child, what that looks like. And sometimes it just depends on the child and maybe the family structure on the type of help and resources they can get. So that was the part of the district attorney's office that I worked in. And so that translated over very well to still being in community.
Correct.
Because I also know too that in a lot of our underserved communities where we have issues in Macon and throughout the state, throughout the country, because I've gone to conferences statewide and national where you have communities that have constant issues with illegal dumping, with blight, dilapidated properties, overgrown lots, and all of those things, which can have an impact on our mental health. And
it can.
If you're walking to school every day, or in the community in which you live, and the house next door to you is blighted, and there's an overgrown field or a dumping site, like that plays a role in our mental health and our and it's also an environmental health issue.
It's definitely an environmental health issue.
Yes. So, but to answer your question, that transition was an easy transition. Because keep in mind, I was actually appointed on the board based on my role with the district attorney's office.
Yes, being in community.
Being in community, exactly.
Man, that is phenomenal. And a lot of times we have stereotypes when we say, okay, the DA office, but it's good to know that we have prevention practices in place so that, we can produce success in our community and make sure that, again, keeping our community beautiful. Now, back to the keeping Macon-Bibb beautiful. You talked about sidewalks. Sidewalks and keeping yards maintained or highways and byways maintained. How important was that for you in Macon-Bibb, keep Macon-Bibb beautiful? How important was that for you to accomplish that in the areas that you achieved up to this point?
Okay. Well, with the thing as far as like with sidewalks, that's more so goes back to as far as like our local county government.
Okay.
We do, some people get confused. They think that I actually work for the Macon-Bibb County government. Now, some of my colleagues throughout the state, like Keep Atlanta Beautiful, for example. Keep Atlanta Beautiful is under the City of Atlanta's local government.
Right.
But with Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, we're a separate entity. We are written into the ordinance, though, of Macon-Bibb County. That's been ever since the beginning, since 1974. We do receive funding from Macon-Bibb County as well, but we still operate separately because of our nonprofit status, our 501c1. We can raise funds, whether through private donations or grants, in addition to the funding that we get from our local government.
Wow.
So the things as far as I work closely a lot with like our code enforcement department, with our solid waste department, our Parks and Recreation and Parks and Beautification department. Also, too, though, I work a lot, believe it or not, also with our local Bibb County Sheriff Department as well, too. Because even with law enforcement, going back to the district attorney's office and our sheriff's department as well, yes, their job is to, of course, keep us safe, and the district attorney's office is to prosecute, but we want to also have a safe city. We can't just prosecute our way out of some of the issues and concerns. We have to have those preventive programs. We have to be engaged. So my organization, Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, we're not necessarily the ones that had anything to do with the sidewalks. That falls back on the commissioners and the mayor. But we do communicate. Trust me, I do communicate with them to let them know. And especially, I get a lot of calls from the community about, there's a house. I was just in a community on the east side where there's an elderly lady has been in her home for over 50 years. I actually grew up with her sons. And unfortunately next door to her, there's an heir's property that, has been vacant ever since the original owners passed, then their child or children passed. And so now unfortunately, in a lot of our communities, we start to see the decay of those homes that grandmama had and lived in for 60 years, but maybe the grandchildren don't necessarily want.
Right.
But when those citizens, like this particular citizen, contacted my office about the concerns because of that house being empty so long, rodents and things were coming over on her side of the house. The yard was overgrown, and they took a proactive approach. Her son was like, "Okay, we're gonna clear this up, but we, need someone to come and pick up, the yard debris." And I was immediately able to reach out to our director of solid waste, and they were able to get that handled. So I do play a close role. I think sometimes citizens feel comfortable coming more so through my office versus going directly to one of the one of the county departments. And I'm happy to serve as that liaison between citizens and government.
And that's exactly what I look at it as, like a liaison between citizens and government, because I believe the people need a voice when it comes down to what do we actually want. And you get to go directly, again, boots on the ground, talking to citizens, seeing what's the problem, not only with your blind eye, but with your own eye, but making sure that we're meeting the needs of the people. How important is it for you? How important is it for you in your mission to make sure that the people's ideas are included and everyone is inclusive, along with local government? Because keeping beautiful seems that have to have a full throttle, well-rounded relationship all around the county, in the community.
You really do. In this role, you do have to be able to have that balance. You have to be comfortable with going to local leaders about the concerns of the people. And you know what, it's a fine line because sometimes that's not always very well received depending upon who the local leaders are. Definitely. But I look at it in a way as far as, okay, I'm going to you, if you're elected by the people to be in this position to serve their needs. Now keep in mind, everything can't happen at once.
It definitely can't.
Everything can't happen overnight. But something can happen.
Right.
Something can happen. And so I didn't know going into this position that was the role that I was going to take on. Because previously that wasn't necessarily the role of this position.
Oh wow.
But you can't be truly effective in keeping the Macon-Bibb beautiful, or whether it's Atlanta beautiful, or whether it's College Park beautiful, or wherever. You got to be able to have that. We are those who are in a similar position as mine. We got to be able to be the bridge that brings the community and government together.
We definitely need that. Definite advocacy. What's next? So now that we have, I believe, the east side, working on the east side and the west side, what's next for Macon-Bibb Beautiful going into the second half of the year? Like, doing the things that you guys have accomplished. What's next for Macon-Bibb Beautiful?
Well, we're going to continue to do what, people know us to do as far as focusing on and doing those neighborhood cleanups, galvanizing more volunteers, galvanizing more partners to be able to do those cleanup initiatives. But we're also going to, focus on some things as far as we have coming up later on this month, where we're working with a couple of organizations to address some of the issues that we have with, that's with climate change. And we can all feel the extreme heat that we're experiencing. And so one of the things that we're going to continue to do is continue to focus on those areas that may not have adequate trees in their communities. We have had success with planting trees throughout several neighborhoods, on several playground campuses at several schools, to make sure that our children, when they're playing on the playground, that they have they have shade. And trees may not be something that we just think about, but the value that they bring, as far as not just as a cooling source, but also to a lot of our people suffer from asthma, and we don't think about that connection as far as maybe living in an environment with not enough trees, to provide us with those oxygen sources. So we're going to be working on more things as far as those initiatives, like I said, with climate change, making sure that all of our communities that maybe lack trees or don't have proper tree sources, that we also focus on that as well.
Okay.
In addition to working with other organizations on helping them with their community gardens, so to deal with the food insecurities, and then also continuing just to do what we've been doing as far as with our schools, going into our schools. We've done a lot even this summer with summer camps, talking with our kids, educating our kids about recycling and waste reduction initiatives, all of these things that I think we take for granted.
Right.
But in the long run, with recycling, if in Macon-Bibb, we already don't have a landfill, so we have to take all of our waste to neighboring counties. And from a conference that I attended with Keep America Beautiful, within the next 30 years in America, most of our landfills are going to be overfilled. And so what do we do when that happens? Well, we got to start being proactive now. And so I've applied for some recycling initiative grants to be able to get into some of our schools, to be able to start developing and recycling and waste reduction initiatives, preparing for the next 30 years.
Wow. That is so, wow. Landfills,
yes,
maybe fields.
Something that we don't think. Once again, you don't think about when you're putting your trash, whether it's in a dumpster, if you live in a condo or apartment community, or when you pull your trash to the curb. You don't think about where it goes.
At all. You just want to get the trash out of your house.
You just want to get it out of your house.
Yes.
But it goes somewhere, and
yes.
So like I said, several communities are struggling as far as with their landfills. Ours being one, to the point where we have to, like I said, our waste has to go to a neighboring county.
Okay.
But like I said, within the next 30 years, just throughout our country.
Man, we're going to have to, you hold that thought, because we're going to have to go to another commercial break, and we're going to talk about recycling, what to do, personally within your home, what you as an individual can do in keeping America beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean? So, all right, Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. You guys stay tuned. We're coming back with Mrs. Asha Ellen of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. You guys stay tuned. Ease up.
When it comes to your health or the care of a loved one, nothing matters more than trust, compassion, and comfort right at home. At Baylor Home Healthcare Services, LLC, we bring professional, personalized care to the heart of rural Georgia. Our skilled team is dedicated to treating every client with dignity, respect, and the attention they deserve. Whether you're recovering from surgery, managing a chronic condition, or simply support day to day, we're here for you. With tailored programming, confidential care, and flexible scheduling, Baylor makes your well-being our top priority. We offer nursing services, personal support, and companion sitter services, because at Baylor, your home is our care setting. Call us today at 478-501-9253. That's 478-501-9253. Or visit BaylorHomeHealthCareServices.com. We accept various insurances, including Georgia Medicaid. Discover care that feels like family. Did you know 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer? And studies show men die faster from breast cancer due to late detection. At Breast Are Us, we're changing the game with safe, painless, and radiation-free ultrasound screenings for both men and women. Our ultrasound screenings are quick, 15 minutes or less, with no compression, no pain, and implant-safe technology. Our scans help detect breast cancer earlier, especially in women with dense breast tissue, where traditional mammograms can miss. Ultrasound increases cancer detection from 47% to 97%. Why wait? Take advantage of this special, only $249. Early detection could save your life or the life of someone you love. Call us today at 478-258-3431 or visit breastarus.com. Breast Are Us, protecting lives through early detection.
Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts with conversation. And we're back with Mrs. Asha Ellen. Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. Man, I got that right. We 3 takes in. And I finally got that right. It's been an honor having you on our show. Thank you.
Oh, thank you
for coming down to what Sheriff Reginald Scandrick called God's country.
Oh, okay.
You
That's what the Henry County McDonald's called. Okay.
God's country, you know. Yeah, you know, where and we were talking about not just keeping Macon-Bibb beautiful, but keeping America beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And how people can personally start in their own home with recycling. Let's go back to the landfills and what's happening. The expectation in 30 years. What's going on?
Well, you know, like I said, I attended a Keep America Beautiful conference in Washington, D.C. this past February.
Okay.
And one of the presenters shared that if in America, if we don't make some adjustments and changes as it pertains to how we dispose of our waste or how we reduce our waste, that within the next 30 years, our landfills will be non-existent.
Right.
And then so if our landfills are all over full, then like what happens then?
Okay.
And so one of the things too that's a big part as far as Keep America Beautiful, Keep Georgia Beautiful, and even trickle down to the local levels with affiliates like Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, is really trying to focus more on educating our community about recycling and other waste reduction initiatives.
Okay.
And so we have had the opportunity to apply, and hopefully we'll be receiving some grants that are specifically centered around recycling and waste reduction initiatives.
Perfect.
And so, but some of the things though that we can all do, as you can see, I got my little plastic bottle here,
Yes.
and typically, usually I have my reusable tumbler.
Yes.
But this particular day I was rushing, so I had to stop by the racetrack and get, get something to drink. But but something that we can all simply do is just recycle this bottle. And so and Macon-Bibb, I'm working. Hopefully, will be if we receive these funds from this grant, we'll be doing a couple of pilots within a couple of our elementary schools. Because recycling can also be, it can be, for some people it might be a little nerve-wracking, a little stressful, because you also have to know like what your local municipality will or will not take. So for example, glass can be recycled, but in Macon-Bibb, we don't have a glass recycling processing center, I guess, that we work with. So you can't recycle glass in Macon-Bibb, even though glass can be recycled.
Wow.
And so so the first thing that people have to know is, number one, what can be recycled from your local municipality, because that can vary.
And how do we find out that information?
I would just start with just contacting your local solid waste department or sanitation. Some cities, they may call it a sanitation department, or contacting just City Hall. I would start with there. Start there. But then you may also, you can go to their various websites, because like I said, that can vary. But most places, well, like going back to my little plastic water bottle here, plastic will definitely can be recycled regardless of where you live. And so even if you just started from there, I mean, how much things do we have that's plastic? That's probably the biggest culprit is plastic now. With our issues as far as with our waste disposal. And so even now, the beverage companies like the American Beverage Association, the Georgia Beverage Association, they're really putting in a lot of funds, trickle them through organizations like Keep America Beautiful and Keep Georgia Beautiful, Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. That's where a lot of the grant funds are even coming from, those corporate organizations like the beverage associations. Because this is a cost for them. So this bottle could be recycled, and then it could go back to a Coca-Cola, a Pepsi-Cola, or whoever, so they can, replenish it and reuse it. That's a cost savings for them. And so that's why the beverage associations are really getting behind investing dollars into recycling programs. So for organizations such as mine, so we can go out to the community and do the education and the programming. So once again, it takes a collaborative effort, and everything goes back to money. And so
it goes back to the
goes
dollar.
back to economics and resources in the dollar.
Yes, it does.
So that's what our focus is going to be. We're in our new fiscal year. We start July. Our year runs from July 1 through June 30th. So we're at the beginning now of our new fiscal year. And hopefully when school resumes in the fall, we will be working more We've been doing recycling education.
Right,
The Georgia curriculum has it in the curriculum, so kids are learning about recycling and Macon-Bibb, but it's not being practiced. And so that's the part that we're trying to sort of bridge that gap and sort of fill in, maybe to assist our local school system with these recycling programs.
Now, in more, and I'm gonna say this, in more like in even lower middle class homes, we are paying for trash to have trash come pick up. What are some of the ways we can reduce that burden on citizens? And I guess maybe that those corporations say, hey, we're gonna provide, because we want to make this city or this community beautiful. How can we provide every citizen in this community with a recycle bin? Because some people, like, I know even in my neighborhood, and I stay in a upper middle class neighborhood, and man, everybody don't have a recycling trash. Like, hey man, I'm gonna put this on my bill just to recycle. So how do we even get that mindset?
Well, we're not there yet either.
Okay.
But I do know I was actually on a webinar with one of the recycling associations, and some municipalities, I can't remember if it was, because the mayor of New Orleans was on this particular call, but then there was also someone from the West Coast as well too. So I might be getting them mixed up. But one of those local municipalities, they actually have what they call an opt out as far as with recycling. So right now in most of our communities, where I can only speak for Macon-Bibb, it's an opt-in. If like I have a recycling bin, I had to request that recycling bin. But in some municipalities, you automatically get a recycling bin, and you have to request to not get it. If that makes sense. And so it has been done. I'll have to go back and do my research, because like I said, the mayor of New Orleans was on this particular webinar that I was on, but also someone from the West Coast as well. I know the West Coast is very, particularly like in California, my son is in San Diego, so it's recycling in those communities is very big. In the South, it's a little bit more of a struggle, but there are people who do recycle. I think the education first has to be there, and then also too, as far as the resources. Now in Macon-Bibb, they don't charge you extra for a recycling bin. So but each person,
can just request it.
You can just request it, but each person though has to check with their individual municipality to see how that part works.
Correct.
But the key with the recycling is also recycling correctly. Because even though it may not cost me to have my recycling bin, if I'm putting the wrong items, if I'm putting trash in my blue recycling bin, that is an actual fine and a penalty that goes back to the municipality when they send it to the recycling processing facility. Again, everything goes back to money, and everything has a cost. So, that's why the recycling education, starting, within our school system and building from there, just like how we learn everything else, we have to learn how to recycle. But the easiest thing to do is even if you just recycle plastic bottles or aluminum cans, like, you can't go wrong as far as that route. And that like I said, the plastic really is the biggest culprit that's being found, because since about the 50s or 60s, we've had more of an increase of, at one point in time, I remember where there was not bottled water. You got your water out the faucet. And now we have whole aisles and convenience store doors, and so that's more plastic that's going. Most of it in our landfills, or thrown on the side of the road, which is definitely a no-no. So the easiest thing what I tell people is start with the plastic bottles. If you don't do anything else, recycle your plastic bottles. And how you can reduce this is have your own water bottle, refillable water bottle, versus constantly, and it'll save you some money too, versus constantly spending $2 on a bottle of water.
Man, I'm telling you, and I'm like, man. And it's funny because now bottled water is on an epidemic because they're telling you, oh man, you can catch this from bottled water.
Yeah, well, yeah, because if people, everything is produced whenever it's produced in a warehouse. It's produced, in a manufacturing plant. So it's anything has a risk, when you start mass producing. So so that's one good way as far as to recycle your plastic bottle, but reduce your consumption as far as the purchasing of it, and just carry your own water bottle. That'll help save you some money, and that'll also help reduce the increase that we're seeing in our landfills. Awesome.
Now I work also closely with the mayor of Ocilla, Mayor Melvin D. Harper II. He's the mayor of Ocilla, and when we were interviewing him, he invited me to the Sweet Potato Fest that those guys are happening down in Ocilla. They have it every year. It drives people down to good old Ocilla, Georgia. And you talked about the Cherry Blossom Fest. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the Cherry Blossom Fest and the role that Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful plays in that, and the value that it brings and what it does to that community. Oh, yeah. Because I'm excited about coming.
Okay, so you've never been?
I've never been.
Okay, all right. I'll make sure you have the dates. It's always in March, usually the second, third weeks. Okay. It's a 10-day festival. Wow. But just an unknown fact that a lot of festival goers are unaware of is that the Cherry Blossom Festival's connection with Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful is that the founding executive director of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, Carolyn Creighton, is also the founder of the Cherry Blossom Festival. Okay. Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful was founded in 1974. The Cherry Blossom Festival began, I think, 1982. Wow. But it started as an event that was hosted by Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. Okay. So it was an event hosted by Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. It was just a one-day event, and it was hosted to celebrate Mr. William Ficklin, who was very instrumental in providing and giving out free cherry blossom tree saplings to the community in Macon-Bibb. Okay. And his birthday happens to fall during the season when the trees blossom. Wow. Wow. And so it was more so like a birthday party thank you celebration for him that grew into the massive 2-week festival, international festival, in which it is today. And so my office actually is housed in the Cherry Blossom headquarters, downtown Macon. The Pink House is the only pink building on Cherry Street in Macon. Okay. But we now, the organizations used to operate as one, but now they for over a decade, maybe even longer, they've been separate organizations. So even though my office is inside the Cherry Blossom headquarters, we operate completely separate. We're two separate entities. They're their own 501c3. They have their own board of directors. Gotcha. We're completely separate. Okay. Whereas, like I said, years ago, it was all one board. The organizations were combined. Okay. But as the festival continued to grow and grow and grow, it was separated. So, but it's a great time. It's a great event. It brings a lot of tourist dollars to Macon-Bibb. Okay. Yes. So I'll make sure you know those dates. I don't know the dates off the top of my head, but yes. But it's always a fun event. It always kicks off with sort of like the opening ceremonies, and then it goes into the parade, and then each day there are different things, different activities at Carolyn Creighton Park, which was formerly known as Central City Park. Every day with the festival, with the rides, but there's also live entertainment and food. So yeah, it's definitely a great event. I'm looking forward to coming to it next year. I thought so it's not in the fall, it's in the spring when everything blossoms. It's in the spring because that's when the trees actually blossom. The trees are very because it's not a native tree. It's a cherry blossom. It's a Japanese Yoshino. Which is the variety of cherry blossom tree that we're known for. But what Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful has done as far as because a lot of our trees, the trees have a life expectancy of 30 years. And so a lot of the trees throughout Macon are 50 years old. Right. And so through a grant that we received from the Ficklin Family Foundation, we were able to update or replace a lot of the aging trees that were no longer blossoming.
Okay.
But we're also able to add more varieties of cherry blossom trees. So we're known for the Yoshinos, but if we were in Japan, there's like 100 different varieties of cherry blossom trees.
Oh, man.
So we were able to introduce a couple of new varieties to have different, pink blossoms throughout town. So that's our role that we contributed was with the planting and the revitalization of the existing cherry blossom trees.
Cherry blossom trees. Now, what being that I heard you say something about you guys plant trees. Macon is growing, Macon-Bibb is growing. How are you guys coordinating with developers who cut down trees?
Well, and in order to grow in areas, particularly in some of the rural outskirts, trees unfortunately will have to come down. We don't necessarily work closely with the developers because a lot of the developers are private, So, But when it comes to maybe development that's more tied in with the local government,
right.
That's when we can, work more so with our commissioners as far as making sure that even though we know some of the trees are going to have to come down, that we're still having an adequate treescape in our developments.
Because you guys have I believe that bridge going through Macon now, transferring from Savannah. It's a big thing going on.
Yeah, it's been going on for about 20 years. So I think they got 10 more years or so to go.
Yes. And now anything you like to share with our audience before we know you guys on a tight schedule. We know you guys. Thank you for coming out here to the station, sharing your story. We look forward to sharing that story in the 10-year anniversary of Game Changers Magazine. Anything you'd like to share with our audience before you go?
Well, I do want the audience to know, because I know you have a national scope, and so even though we're talking about Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, under the greater umbrella, you do have Keep America Beautiful.
Okay.
And so I would recommend to anyone that regardless of where you live throughout the state of Georgia, throughout, the country, that you first look and see, is there a Keep America Beautiful affiliate in your local town?
Wow.
Right here in Georgia, there's about 70 throughout the state. So whether you're in Middle Georgia in Macon, or my neighbor in Warner Robins, or in Dublin, but Atlanta, College Park, check and see if there is an affiliate in your local community. Because as I stated earlier, growing up, I did not know. Even with all the work that Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful was doing, I did not know that this organization existed. Because if I did, I think I would have been more involved, maybe even during my teens and young adult years. So I definitely just recommend, wherever you are, to the listeners, check and see if there is an affiliate in your area, and if it's not, you can start one up. That's just a matter of reaching out to Keep America Beautiful. So throughout the country, there's over 700 affiliates throughout the country, and in our state of Georgia, there's about 70 or so.
Okay. Now, I before we go, I remember you said you had a degree in marketing from Georgia Southern down in Statesboro.
Yeah.
How does your marketing degree play into the role of where you're at today for those young people? Like you just said, if we knew we were younger, we would have got into this. But how does that journey of Asha Ellen play into molding that young person to say, hey, it's a better tomorrow?
What I learned as far as it helped me, I didn't know it at the time, because of course that was 30 plus years ago, but I didn't realize how that degree, at first that marketing degree was just for me to be able to start a career, get a job. And now though, some 30 years later, that marketing degree was preparing me on how to market me.
Come on now.
But I was able to take everything that I learned, all of my experiences from, my background starting off as a 21-year-old in retail management, and then transitioning over to, to the consumer products goods industry, working for Coca-Cola. But then also using that same degree to work for the district attorney's office and as the director of outreach, and in my current position now. So I would tell any young person, regardless, like I said, my degree was marketing. Everybody has a marketing degree, whether you got that degree or not. You know, whether you actually got the paper hanging on the wall stating, we all have the ability to be able to market ourselves.
Correct,
So,
correct.
So, you know, looking back now, like I stated earlier, in 1994, when I walked across that stage in Statesboro, I did not realize that at that time that marketing degree was really going to help me with marketing myself.
Wow. Wow, that what a thing, marketing myself. You guys take notes. We got Asha Ellen of Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful in the building. Shout out to Commissioner Stewart.
Yes, Commissioner Stanley Stewart.
Come on now, he's in the building as well, man. Shout out to Commissioner Stanley Stewart, Macon-Bibb County.
And my grandmama's here too, y'all.
Shout out, you know, her grandmother's here, beautiful soul, you know, glad she came on the road and glad, you know, we got a whole office full, man, and this whole studio full. We want to thank you for taking the time out and sharing your journey, sharing your story. You guys stay tune in every week as we give you somebody special that's changing the game in your local community. Game Changers Magazine, Game Changers Media Network, Voices of the Village podcast, where change starts in conversation.
And equality. Now the world they will see. That's why.